Okay, so ready for a deep dive? I'm not gonna lie, some of these facts you sent in have me like seriously scratching my head. Someone sent us this source, interesting psychological facts about love and attraction. And yeah, interesting is one word for it.
You know, what gets me about these kind of sources is they act like they've got love all figured out, you know? Like, here's the secret formula. But
Hmm.
attraction, relationships is all way more complicated than that.
Yeah, for sure. And this source, let me tell you, they're serving up some real uh interesting claims. We're talking a woman's back expands when she's into someone, something about belly buttons being, I don't know, sensual. And hold on to your hats, there's a theory about vaginal tightness and what men prefer. I mean, come on.
And that right there, that's a prime example of how this stuff can get messy. I mean, yeah, open body language, it can be a sign for both men and women, but back expansion, come on now, that's not exactly scientific.
Right. Like they took this tiny thing about body language and blew it way out of proportion. And
Hmm.
that's kind of worrying, because
Yeah.
people see psychological facts and they think, boom, that's the truth.
Especially when it lines up with what they already believe.
Right.
Or gives a nice, simple answer for something complicated. Love and attraction, people want those answers, so even if the evidence is shaky, if it fits their worldview, they latch on.
Okay, so get this. There's a fact in here about if a woman stands on one leg during, well, something, it means something. I'm not sure what exactly, but one leg. Did they get this from watching flamingos?
Okay, some of these, I gotta admit, they're pretty out there. But you've hit on something important. These facts, they try to boil down human behavior to these really basic physical things. Easier than actually thinking about emotions, you know?
Yeah.
Social stuff, past experiences, all the things that go into why we're attracted to each other.
Yeah, and let's be real, saying a woman's attractiveness is all about her belly button or something. Not exactly what I'd call empowering. It's all
Yeah,
very,
well,
well, let's just say it feels a bit outdated.
it does, doesn't it? And it points to this pattern I see a lot with these kinds of facts. They oversimplify, often in a way that feels kind of objectifying, you know? Like, here's the cheat sheet to understand women, but real life, forget it. Every single person experiences desire in their own way. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly. So if we can't trust these interesting psychological facts
Mm-hmm.
to actually give us good info, then what? How are we supposed to navigate this whole attraction relationships thing
Yeah.
in a way that's, smart, but also respectful?
Honestly, it starts with accepting there's no easy answer, no secret code. Good relationships, the kind that last, they take communication, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and really trying to understand your own needs and what your partner needs too.
So basically, forget the shortcuts, focus on actually connecting with each other.
Exactly.
Makes sense to me. And speaking of shortcuts, our source today seems to have taken a few when it comes to, well, different kinds of relationships. It's like they think everyone fits into the same little box.
Right. We're seeing a lot of assumptions here, mostly about relationships that are, shall we say, pretty traditional. Like there's this one about how happy a woman is depends on, well, how often she's having sex with her partner.
Oh, wow. Yeah, talk about a limited view. Not to mention implying that a woman's happiness is all about her sex life. Not cool.
Yeah, it's ignoring a whole bunch of people,
Outside.
right? Different ways of doing relationships, different sexualities, different things people want. Reducing it all down to these little equations, that's not how you build closeness or trust or anything that really matters.
It's like they watched a rom-com and thought, yep, that's real life.
Hmm.
And it's not just relationships that get simplified in this source. It's like they have this very specific and kind of old-fashioned view of what men and women are even like in those relationships.
Oh, absolutely. It's this constant thing like women are these mysterious beings with all these hidden motives, and men are supposed to crack the code or something, like those old-timey advice columns, what women really want.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But in the real world, we're all just figuring this stuff out as we go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why leaning on these like oversimplified facts can actually do damage. People get these unrealistic expectations, and then boom, you've got misunderstandings, arguments, the whole deal.
It's like that saying, the map is not the territory. They're giving you a map of relationships, but it's not even remotely accurate to what's really going on.
You got it. And that's where this confirmation bias thing comes in, right? If you already think you know how men and women act in relationships, well, guess what? You're going to grab on to those facts that back you up, even if there's no proof.
So it's like this loop, these facts, just make our biases even stronger, and then we miss the bigger picture completely.
It's like you're looking through a funhouse mirror, you know? You think you're seeing things clearly, but it's all distorted. That's why being able to think for yourself, question what you see. It's so important.
And part of that is like looking at where the information's coming from in the first place, right?
Yep.
Because in this case, our source seems more interested in being entertaining than actually being right.
Oh, 100%. Anytime you see these kinds of claims, you got to ask, where's this coming from? What's their angle? Is it based on actual research, or is it just like someone's opinion they're dressing up as fact?
So like you got to filter the BS, especially now online. There's just so much information coming at you all the time.
Exactly. You're panning for gold, basically. Maybe there's a few nuggets of truth in there, but you're going to have to dig through a whole lot of dirt to find them. That's where knowing your sources, the good ones, really matters.
So, okay, someone's listening to this. They want to learn about love and attraction, the psychology of it all. Where should they go? Give us the good stuff.
Oh, there are so many great resources out there. Look for books by, actual psychologists and researchers, articles that have been peer-reviewed, websites from reputable organizations. And here's the thing, even when you are getting your info from a good place, you still got to think critically.
Don't just blindly accept it, right? Do your own research.
Exactly. Because the truth, it's usually way more complicated and way more interesting than any quick and easy fact.
So, okay, if these facts, and I'm using that word loosely, if these facts aren't going to unlock the mysteries of love, then what will? What's the real takeaway from all of this?
Honestly, it boils down to this real connection, talking to each other, being open to, the beautiful messiness of being human. That's what matters. These facts, they offer these quick fixes, but relationships, way more complex, way more interesting than that.
Like we said before, ditch the shortcuts, focus on the real deal. Easier said than done, right? I mean, everywhere you look, someone's telling you how relationships should be.
Oh, for sure. And that's where you gotta be smart, be picky about what you listen to. Good relationships, healthy ones, they're built on respect, being able to understand where the other person's coming from, really wanting that connection.
So instead of like decoding secret signs or following some rule book, just focus on building something real.
Exactly. Be curious about your partner. Say what you mean what you say. And don't be afraid to really examine what you believe. You might surprise yourself. That's how you get real closeness, real understanding.
Sounds way more fulfilling and honestly way more fun than trying to memorize a bunch of facts about, the opposite sex.
Couldn't agree more. Relationships, they're a journey, not a destination. You don't just get there by following some rules.
Well said. I think the biggest myth this whole source is selling is that there's this like one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to love and attraction. But really, it's about appreciating that everyone's different, every relationship's different.
Absolutely. It's about getting that we're all a work in progress, right? We're always learning, always changing, especially in our relationships.
And sometimes that means letting go of how we think things should be
Yeah.
and embracing the messiness, the unpredictability, because ultimately that's where the good stuff is, that real connection. So next time you see those interesting psychological facts, take them with a grain of salt. Maybe have a little laugh too.
Right. And instead of looking for that easy answer, focus on building those relationships where you're curious about each other, you get each other, you really want to connect. That's where the magic happens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into interesting psychological facts about love and attraction. Hopefully this got you thinking a little more critically about the stuff you read, the stuff people tell you. And when it comes to love, be open, be curious, and if someone says they've got it all figured out, be a little skeptical. Because when it comes to love and attraction, the journey is usually way more interesting, way more rewarding than the destination.